is a real pleasure for me to be back at Massanutten Springs Conference Center. I've been here several times before, but I've been here for the annual Bible conference. This is the first time I've been at the men's conference, and I'm honored to be invited to speak to you tonight, and again tomorrow morning. And I'm looking forward to seeing what God's going to do in our lives this weekend. Is it working? Oh, there it is. There we go. I'm looking forward to seeing what God's going to do in our lives this weekend and in the coming weeks and months. I did want to give you a brief explanation, though, of the picture that you found in the booklet. That picture is different than the way I look now, and I just wanted to say that is me in the booklet. That picture was taken 2 years ago when I was teaching at the Evangelical Theological Seminary in Namibia. And I did have a beard and I had short hair. Last year I went to Egypt, and I was concerned that during my trip my beard and hair would get shaggy. And I hate going to a barber in a foreign country. There's nothing more difficult than trying to get someone in a foreign language to cut your hair properly. So I decided just to shave it all off. And I thought that it would grow back sort of gradually when I was in Egypt. Well, as it turned out, I liked it this way, so I kept it. And I do want to commend those of you who are getting a little thin on top to do this. This is a great time saver, I have found. Because in the morning, I can wash my face, shampoo my hair, and comb it all in one stroke. Anyhow, I'm pleased that you all are here as well. I should say this has not been a good year, if my own experience is any indication. This has not been a good year for conferences. I was invited to speak to a conference at the Synod of Pennsylvania, the Synod of the Trinity, which is in Pennsylvania. I was invited to speak on John Calvin, and the invitation was taken back because there was a lack of interest in John Calvin in I blame it on John and not on me. I also spoke at a Lutheran conference earlier in the summer. That was by two synods of the Lutheran Church in sort of the western part of the state of Pennsylvania, and they claimed that they had a third of the attendance this year that they've had other years. So the fact that the attendance this year is so good, I'm really proud of all of you. You decided to take a risk. You are no longer concerned about swine flu or about the economy. You have taken a step of faith, and I hope that this time thus together will be a real reward for that step of faith. The title of my talk tonight is The Christian Faith is Not for Wimps. And I want to begin simply by talking about some facts. I want to begin with fact number one. Fact number one is that women outnumber men in Christian churches. The proportion of women to men in the Christian church is about 60 to 40, or about 3 to 2. The typical U.S. congregation draws an adult crowd each week that's about 61% female, and about 39% male. And that gender gap is evidently true in all age groups. There are about 13 million more adult women than men in churches on any given Sunday morning in the United States. And almost 25% of married church-going women worship without their husband. Now let me make it clear that those are not simply, that's not a recent phenomenon. Over history, we see those same kinds of numbers play out. There's been about a 60-40 female to male ratio from the very beginning of the Christian movement. And that's pretty consistent throughout the world as well. I've been in some churches in Africa, for instance, and I see the same kind of 60-40 split there. That's true evidently in South America. It's true also in Asia. But my point here, fact number 2, is that male participation in the life of the church is absolutely vital. And it's vital, and I, for one, would like to see more of it. How about you? After all, God has no grandchildren, only sons and daughters. And the Christian church is at any point in time only one generation from extinction. So each generation has to be won anew for Jesus Christ, and men have a significant role to play in that next great victory. Besides, I found that men have a tremendous impact on the participation of others in the life of the church as well. A good friend of mine is a woman by the name of Dr. Carol Litch. She published her doctoral dissertation, which is entitled Choosing Church, What Makes a Difference for Teens. Carol looks at strong youth groups in Catholic, mainline Protestant, and evangelical Protestant congregations, and she makes 2 important findings. The first finding that she concludes is rather obvious, that parents are the most potent influence on the spiritual development of young people. But the second point is really quite surprising. Her second conclusion is that young people are more influenced by the church-going practices of the least religious parent, rather than the more religious parent in the household. And you can understand that. You've probably had this experience before. You've heard others that have had the experience. Well, why should I go to church if Dad doesn't? We have an impact on others' participation in the church, even when we ourselves don't participate. And that's a remarkable fact. Since we are statistically the least active participants, we have a greater influence on the participation of children in the church than any of us realizes. Well, men do not participate as much as we would like them to participate, and the question is, why do men not participate fully in the life of the church? Why are women more participatory than males are? And I have a theory about this. The theory is this. I would like to argue that the 60-40 split that we have in the church is due to the fact that it is easier to be a Christian woman than it is to be a Christian man. Now let me say that again. I'm going to argue that it's easier to be a Christian woman than it is to be a Christian man. Now I don't mean to say that it's easy to be a Christian of any gender. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's especially difficult to be a Christian when you are male. And maybe that's why there are fewer men in churches today. Maybe, just maybe, not all men are up to the challenge of being a Christian man. Let me explain a little bit. There are many Christian ideals that are traditionally female values. If you look at Paul's statement in Galatians 5, Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit, and he says, by contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no such law against such things. Well, those characteristics of the Spirit-filled life are characteristics that tend to be valued by women. For example, many women strive to be loving or kind or patient. Faithfulness and gentleness have traditionally been feminine goals, and joy and peace are valued by most women. But the so-called fruit of the Spirit that Paul identifies in Galatians 5 flies in the face of what it means to be a man in 21st century America. After all, our culture values males who are competitive, not loving and kind, who are critical, not joyful, who are aggressive, not peaceful and gentle. They're ambitious, not patient. Paul's fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, could not be farther from the male ideal in the 21st century in the United States of America. These are characteristics